I'm Rafe Lucas, and this, as you know, is my wife Antonia.
Yes, and this is my wonderful husband.
Yeah. And we moved to Eastbourne 6 years ago, immediately struck by its extraordinary beauty and the potential of all the wild areas that are part of it. We've been active, as you know, in fostering the relationship between Eden and Eastbourne, which I'm glad to say seems to be very warm at the moment. And this spring, we stumbled across, thanks to Paulina, we stumbled across the story of the 1995 conference. And it really is an extraordinary story. How could a group of 10 to 12-year-olds, the junior board of Drusilla's Zoo, create a United Nations conference and have it put on in Eastbourne? I mean, do not know of any other occasion when anybody in England has done anything like that. And that this should have been allowed to fade and just exist in people's memories seemed to me an extraordinary shame and something that we should put our backs into putting right. And it has been a wonderful journey talking to so many people who were part of the conference and how it has changed their lives and how it has soaked into that. It gives me enormous hope for the future that by doing things well now, we do actually make a difference to the way the world is in 25 years' time, even if we don't see it, even if these things happen invisibly. So today and the next 10 days are about celebrating the conference, celebrating those brave children who were part of it and their ambitions and what they hoped for in the world. And picking up on them and showing how we're doing things in the spirit of the conference for the environment, for listening to young children, to bringing nature back into Eastbourne. And I hope ever that you will join in as many as you can of the presentations that are being put on. They're all just ideas. They're things that might happen. They're so you can have a look at them and say, right, which of them suits us? For me, I would vote for a town full of blue butterflies in July. It can be achieved. It's something we can do, particularly with the help of the council. We can make that sort of difference. And it's not just for the wildlife, it's for us. It's because it makes the town, for every moment that the butterflies are around us, a nicer place to be in. So, Antonia, I'm handing over to you for the rest of the morning, and I shall be listening, looking at the chat and picking up on any comments that people make on the chat and feeding them back into the session.
Thank you, Ray. Yes, so today, this morning's session, we have a number of guests who will be talking and contributing their ideas. We're going to have a range of different opinions, and we're going to see some wonderful examples of work done by educators and pupils from Eastbourne who, despite COVID, have not let that restrict them from their desire to take action and raise awareness about how important climate change is. And here in Eastbourne, we've got a very ambitious target that by 2030 we will be carbon neutral, and this is a town-wide ambition. And this has been really well embraced by a growing number of the population, and we are very much hoping that this event, Making Natural History, is going to give an even bigger welly push to get the message out there. So today, we're going to kick off the event by hearing the inspiring words of our leader, David Tutt, and our councillor, Jonathan Dow, who is responsible for helping us to get to the 2030 vision. And before I hand over to David, David was at the event in 1995. He was a young Liberal councillor. He was born and bred in Eastbourne and so knows the locality really well. And over his lifetime, he has seen the town increase and swell in size as far as the population is concerned. And he's also seen a decline in the agricultural practices that have taken place in this town, which is once what gave it its identity for about 600 years. So David has been very enthusiastic about supporting the young people of Eastbourne to come up with ideas that will help shape the town in its future, and encouraging young people to think about problems and how their wonderful creative ideas can come up with solutions. So, David, tell us, what got you into politics in the first place, and why are you so inspired by encouraging young people to take up the challenge?
Well, before I answer that, Antonia, can I just say a really big thank you to you and Rafe for organising this event. It's fantastic, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here, because if we go back 25 years, I was actually a very young leader of the council in those days. And Kitty and Michael Ann, who ran Drusillas, I remember them inviting me out there and to share with me this idea from young people who were on their management team. They had their own management team for Drusillas, who made the decisions of what went into that to the Drusillas Park, which is, I think, was fantastic. And they shared this idea of an international children's conference on the environment, an idea that was just so far ahead of its time in 1995. And there was a councillor around at that time called Maurice Skilton, who really picked up that idea and ran with it, and managed to gather an awful lot of sponsorship from large organisations that enabled young people from around the world to come here to Eastbourne for that conference. And I had the opportunity to listen to their ideas, and I went away from that truly inspired by the dedication to sustainability that came out of that conference. And so roll the clock forward those 25 years, and where are we now? Well, sadly, that need for sustainability, that need to take action, is far, far more urgent now than it was then. And so that means action from everybody, and government has a role to play. And when I say government, I mean both national government and local government. So to give you an example, national government, I believe, should be investing more in renewable energy and reducing the reliance upon fossil fuels. And they can pay for that by taxing such things as air travel, and making, in so doing, reducing the carbon footprint. Local government can do more. It should be doing more to invest in walking and cycling and making that safe. So governments have a role to play, but what inspired me to answer your question, to come into politics, was to try and make a difference, to contribute something. And that can be done obviously through politics, but I believe it can equally be done by communities, and particularly by young people. If communities around the world all decided that they were going to take action to address the need to reduce our carbon footprint, to increase sustainability, and to understand that environmental agenda, the problems would go away, because communities can genuinely make that difference. So what do I mean by that? We need to reduce the amount of the natural resources of the world we use. We need to reuse things rather than throw them away. And when we have got products that have come to the end of their natural life, then we need to recycle them. So what can we do in that sense? In terms of walking and cycling, we can leave the car behind far more, and we can walk and we can cycle. When we are driving, we can do such things as turn the engine off when we're idling. So if we're waiting at a set of traffic lights or at a level crossing gate, we're not pumping a lot of pollution into the atmosphere. We can do such things as conserve water. Water's not an infinite resource, despite what we've been led to believe, and certainly I've grown up to believe. And we can refuse to purchase goods that have single-use plastic. And young people have just such an important role to play. I know that over the coming days, and today on this session, we'll have ideas coming from young people, and there'll be things that I haven't thought of, and I'm really looking forward to learning from them. But they can also, they can influence so much the older generation, their parents, their grandparents. I always think of my daughter as my conscience. So if I'm ever thinking of taking a short journey in the car, she uses the words, "Think of the planet, Dad," and I leave the car behind. If I'm in the supermarket, and I'm picking up some fruit or vegetables which are wrapped in plastic. Again, think of the planet, and I put it down and I buy the loose produce. Even when she's not with me now, I hear that voice in my ear, think of the planet. And so young people really can make a major difference on what the behaviours of the older generation.
And David, what I was going to say is that you've got a young person that you've managed to encourage to see the vision and take on the baton from you, because Jonathan Dow is a recent member to the council cabinet, and you've had the vision to see that he's got the real enthusiasm and the real drive to take this agenda forward. Jonathan, and your response as a father of a number of pups, of children, what's your vision in the sense that you and David are working together to bring in children to the discussion?
Yeah, thanks, Antonia. Yeah, I've got 3 children. They're 16, just turned 15 and 12. And I think it's important that we bring the young people with us. I mean, it's their generation that are going to be able to make the substantive change that allows us to hit our carbon neutral goal, particularly in Eastbourne, which is why it's so important that we also end up recruiting young councillors and people like Tom Neville, who I know is on today, to be really good advocates and vocalising the importance of being involved in their community. So for me, I've made a few changes. I've listened to the walking to works and the cycling to school and all that kind of thing, and I've sold my car. So it's actually making those changes that really reduce your carbon footprint that we all have, that will contribute to the overall success of our carbon neutral agenda by 2030. And I think that young people today are taking this very seriously. You've seen that in Greta Thunberg. I mean, she's a global celebrity, and she's not even 16. And I use the word celebrity, and it almost cringe when I say it because of what people think of a celebrity. But actually, in such a good sense, she's a celebrity. I think that people like her, and locally Tom, who drive this agenda forward, I think have a massive positive impact. And so I'm really pleased to be, as I say, a father of 3 and working alongside people like Tom, who are young, enthusiastic, and share that vision of where we can go as a town. And certainly, I think, lead the way, particularly in the UK. I mean, when one considers that we've got a 2030 target, and a lot of the government targets and other local authorities targets are 2045, 2050. One of the reasons we've done that in Eastbourne is because we wanted to take action now. We didn't want to set a target that was 30 years away, that we'd actually then start working on in 10, 15 years. The point about the climate emergency was, the clue's in the title, it's an emergency. We need to do stuff now. We need to start making changes to the way we lead our lives, the way we pass policy at a local level, to ensure that we capitalise on every opportunity to reduce our carbon footprint as a local authority and as a town and every single individual resident.
Jonathan, I think what's so wonderful is that you have got the support of Caroline, our wonderful MP, and also Tom Neville, who represents Eastbourne in the Youth Parliament. So, Jonathan, can I hand over to Caroline and Tom Neville to respond to what they've just heard, and also they welcome us to this day's events. Caroline. On mute, Caroline. And Tom, off mute. That would be lovely.
Unmuted. Good morning. It's so good to see everybody. And can I also echo David's thanks to you and to Rafe for bringing us all together to remember what was remarkable back in the day, 25 years ago, when children from countries across the globe came to Eastbourne and really put us on the map and shone a light then. And what a great legacy for us to build on. Of course, as a teacher myself, my working life long has all been about recognising everything that children and young people have to bring, and how important it is that we create that really strong legacy for them, but that they are part of the journey at every age and stage. So I think it's an incredible thing for us to celebrate today, and for us to take stock, and for us to really look at that route map to how we're again going to lead the way locally but also I'm absolutely delighted to be playing my part to add to the local work from the work in Westminster. And of course, Eastbourne's the most incredible place, as I'm at pains to tell my colleagues who perhaps always have in mind the pier and the prom, very beautiful and obviously a very important landmark. But the richness of our natural environment, the coast, the downlands, the marsh, it is an extraordinarily wonderful place to really live and love, and of course, incredibly important that we seek to preserve and protect it going forward. And I've seen something, obviously, very pleased to have met Tom and seen something of his work. And I think looking back to that first conference, looking to this generation too, they're going to be playing their part as we move forward to that greener, brighter future. So I couldn't be more pleased to be part of the work.
Thank you, Caroline. And I think what we've got to look towards is how our leaders can help the children to realise that ambition. And that's going to be a theme that's going to be running out throughout this day. And we'll be hearing after Tom from young people who were there in 1995 and what their view is for today. But Tom, in response, you know, you and your colleagues, your contemporaries are the future. So Tom, can we welcome you to the, opening this festival and your ambitions, I think. Your ambitions for the future, for the next year.
Well, this is like amazing to conceive, and thinking about the conference 25 years ago, on what they said and what they did and what challenges they proposed. But I also want to hope that everyone can realise that we are tackling climate change in Eastbourne, and that we can be an anchor around other towns and cities in the UK. And it's really nice to see that, you know, people want to help young people in particular. So, you know, I urge most young people to take, you know, Car Free Day forward